There's two over there. All right, I'm gonna go around the right side. You go around the left. I'm gonna pop a flashbang.
¿Qué chingados esperas? A partir de la madre con todo. Vamos a enseñarles quién manda. ¡Disparen! Vamos a enseñarles quién manda.
Welcome back to the agency. Today we're going over a few different things, right? We want to go over M81 versus Multicam. Go over a couple builds that what do you want to be called? What do you want to be called?
Ricky's fine.
That Ricky's built out.
I am a dirty civilian, as they say.
They do say that.
They do say that.
We'll do a cutaway right here of those guys.
Claire! The meatloaf! We want it now!
Let's go ahead and grab that. Grab that Recce gun. So this gun was not like this when you got it, right?
Not at all.
So what was talk me through the life of
this rifle?
Of this rifle.
So it started out its life as a Rock River Arms AR-15 that I bought during the 2020 craze when all the rifles were going off the shelves and I needed something. The rifle that I did get, obviously a little bit different than what you see now. Basically, replaced the rail, replaced the charging handle, replaced the buffer tube, and put a mil spec stuff basically into it because it was all civilian spec. And so it just took a lot of time for me to kind of figure out that it's important to take your time with rifles and to figure out what works and what doesn't and everything. And
that rail I want to talk about. So that rail before, can you talk about, because this is one you put on.
Yeah.
What was on there before? What came with the gun?
What came with the gun was this little halvesy. It was this short. And I wanted all that rail space. I wanted to be able to put on a bipod when I want to. And so I decided to actually make this the Recce build because of that velocity. And so I threw on a 6-hour LPVO, the Tango MSR 1-6. And then after I did that, I decided to paint it because I've been seeing a lot
paint
of
your guns, right?
I saw a lot of dirty civilian videos and videos.
Big fans if you haven't noticed. It's like the second reference already.
Every time, Nick.
And build a lot. I have a old Crimson Trace, like 700 lumen flashlight on here that I'll probably replace at some point because I got it when I was in college, so I just grabbed the first thing that I saw.
So that was the first flashlight that you that you bought.
That's the first flashlight I ever got for a rifle, and it was on display. You know, like next to the rifles and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'll just grab that flashlight off the shelf, and I didn't know anything. And so I just threw that on there. I enjoy it a lot, especially now that I painted it. I feel like painting it really changed.
But you pretty much turned this rifle from like, just like a generic, I won't say like a generic big box rifle, but there's a lot of rifles you go to the gun store and they just have like Rock River Arms, Smith & Wessons, Ruger AR-556s, and people usually buy those guns and then they will throw like a Vortex. I mean, you threw a Vortex on it.
Yeah, right? Originally.
They'll just throw like a Vortex on it and then like
and
whatever they saw in Call of Duty and be like, yeah, like I need 2 grips or whatever. And then a lot of guys will be like, just build a rifle at first. But that can be kind of daunting to somebody who just wants to get into the game, I think. So sometimes you need to just kind of buy something and then figure out what you like and don't like about it. Like, I don't think a lot of people when they first buy their AR are building their dream AR like right off the bat. I think they're like learning, you know what I mean? Like, it's easy for us to look at somebody now, yeah, you should do this and that, but they're probably not gonna take your advice. They're just gonna do whatever and then still learn. Even if you try to give them a gun that works for you, isn't gonna work for everybody else. So it's like you gotta it's like the rite of passage, I think. So this optic it's a 1-6, you said, right? So it came with what? When you bought it and everything, it came with that mount?
Yep, came with the mount, came with the throw lever, so I didn't have to buy a separate throw lever, so it's already on there.
What do you think of the optic?
I mean, I think it's great for what it is. You know, it's an LPVO. I mean, what more can you talk about?
Even if you kept that other, as ugly as it would have been, that little tiny rail, and you had civilian spec, all that, and you didn't change out the grip. Like, in theory, like, you could have kept it stock, thrown like a Surefire and like a EOTech on it, and it would have been good.
It would have been fine.
Aesthetically, it would have been like pretty gross, but
I mean, yeah, it is.
What's the next one you built? What was your thought process with?
I'm gonna go a different route. I'm gonna buy a BCM. And going the BCM route was kind of like my bigger step to moving beyond the lower tier rifles. Now I'm going to mid-tier. BCM is kind of one of those workhorse rifles.
So now, a few years, you learn a few things.
So I got a Radical 10.5 and replaced it with this BCM upper. So now I have a pin and weld Surefire on the end of this 14.5 barrel with my Streamlight, my aim point, and all my other fun little gizmos like my Raptor and my backup sights and stuff.
Now the Streamlight, I just got one. The Streamlight's a pretty good little flashlight. This is probably the best, no offense to Crimson Trace.
Oh yeah.
But if you're gonna buy a budget like
budget light, that's the best budget light you can get.
And this is not like an original thought. Like everybody pretty much agrees on that.
Yep.
If you have the money to go bigger, obviously go bigger. But like the Streamlight is gonna serve you pretty well, I think.
Yeah.
And then you got the Aimpoint Pro, which is pretty much like the gold standard of.
I mean, I only spent $450 on it, you know, versus like other higher end stuff, but it's still Aimpoint. It still has a long battery life. I replaced the front cap, so it's actually a plastic cap over the glass, so I don't have to open it up.
Yeah, if you use an Aimpoint in the military, it's basically the Comp M2.
Yeah.
It's like the same design. It's been around for like ever. And now Lucas, our good friend Lucas said, who doesn't know me? I don't know him either. Our good friend Lucas at T-Rex Arms, he sells a little plug now for those B5 grips, right?
Yep, he does. Little grip plug.
Yeah. A rear end plug.
Yes.
And then of course you're a big fan of the Magpul CTR stocks, as I see.
Yeah.
Now you have already seen, if you've been in this channel for more than 5 seconds, you've probably seen the M16. Yeah, it's clear. But I think what's kind of cool, like the old Sling system, these were like designed, the Sling points. The era before this was like M14s, M1 Grands, you know what I mean? Like, there's all these different Sling setups now that are much more efficient than they were in 1963. This is like for carrying over the shoulder.
Yeah.
A lot of modifications, what they would do, if you read the Recondo manual, they were already figuring out to put paracord right here inside the front sight post so that they could get a little bit of a better articulating point where it wouldn't, when you hold the rifle, it doesn't just go like that. And then even for an A1, they mentioned putting paracord around the carry handle itself to make a little bit of a better little sling system. So those guys were like improvising. You know, this wasn't like widespread in Vietnam or anything. That was like a very limited thing. Like only special forces guys were doing that. Mm-hmm. And then on the Car 15, they would put it was a little aluminum buttstock and they would wrap the paracord around that. Let's talk a little bit about the M81 versus the Multicam. We're not specialists here. We didn't do that much research, all right, but we've done probably more than the Army did when they were coming up with UCP. So they could hire us and we could be a little bit smarter than them. I see Multicam as the new M81.
Oh yeah.
M81, it was kind of the universal camouflage for the military. You see people in the Navy, the Air Force, Army, Marines, everybody was wearing M81 back in late 70s to early 2000s. It had a pretty long service life and everybody was wearing it. And then there was the period, the dark years, where everybody split off. The Navy went through like 3 different dungarees. The Air Force went to the Tiger Stripe, the digital gray Tiger Stripe. Army went to UCP, and then the Marines went to Marpat, which was the best of those, all those I've listed. And then now we're kind of coming back to this, to a universal, I don't want to say universal camouflage because that's
UCP.
but a camouflage that is widely used by all the branches. So now we're seeing Multicam again, used by members of, you know, in the Navy, Air Force. I keep mentioning Navy first because I was in the Navy. Air Force is using this. They wear that. The OCP. The Army's wearing it. The true successor to M81, I think. We're fans of the Brent 0331, I think is his channel.
Yep.
We're a fan of the camo test, so we want to do our own little camo test.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and roll some of that so you guys can see. I thought the M81 was going to do worse than it did, and because I had a feeling where I live, it's a lot of pine woods, it's a lot of browns, very limited greens right now.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's also the time of year. Remember
Yes.
that part too.
But based on the colors alone, I was like, oh yeah, Multicam's just gonna smoke it. Now up close, yeah, Multicam's gonna win. But at a distance, I was actually really surprised with the results we got from M81. So we'll go ahead and show you guys that. This gun is gonna blend in better than an all black long gun like this is. In Vietnam, like MACV-SOG and stuff, they would actually take 100-mile-per-hour tape and they would tape the stock, the hand guards, to break up the outline. They put a little slab of tape right here so that when that thing comes out, it would hit like tape to dampen the sound. So these guys would just do these little tactics and whatnot, but they weren't spray painting their guns, they were just putting tape on it. Now, people are spray painting. I knew this was gonna give me away in some of the shots, and I think I tried to like put this down on the ground and like cover it. This gun you can get away with a little more.
Yes, you can.
So what did you think about the result?
Makes sense. I think it also depends on the time of year. I'm sure in the summertime when there's a lot of greens and stuff, M81 would do better. M81 would be the best in Florida. Like, it's way more appealing to M81 versus multicam. I would stick out more in Florida. Right now, I mean, it would probably be okay. There's still a lot of tans and stuff like that, like here in just kind of across the board. You can definitely get away with M81 a little bit more. We're
gonna redact out the part where you said we're just gonna go beep.
Oh, sorry. Down here in the South.
Yeah, in the southern United States.
In the southern United States. I was also gonna, I mean, for the sake of multicam and what it's having on the world, I mean, look, Russia's taking on multicam. Ukraine's using multicam.
Yep.
Britain has their own version of multicam. New Zealand, Australia, because it's such a strong camo that works in a lot of different environments.
Well. And it's funny you mention that because if you remember M81, there's a lot of nations that were copying, making their own versions of M81. The British have their own pseudo M81. There's several different countries. I can't even think of them all right now, but there's European countries that all have their own version of M81. So it's just funny to me that another reason why I think multicam is like the successor to M81. But that's all we got. Thank you for watching the video. We'll see you on the next one.